OkaCast is brought to you in part by viewers like you. Big shout out to all of our patrons. This show would not be possible without you guys. Thank you so much. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to buy the gear that we need to make this show possible. With your Patreon money, we were able to buy a new audio interface that we used in this episode. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of OkaCast. I'm your host and your best friend, Alan.
And I'm your other host, Tin.
Tin.
That's me.
How's it been, Tin?
It's been crazy.
Really? Why?
I guess yesterday I did an acid trip.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
That was nuts. What a day.
Who'd you do it
with? The boys. Me.
The Wins.
The Win family, the Win bros. But yeah, we actually went over we started the day. We planned this just a week ahead of time. It was kind of like a very last minute thing.
So what was the driving force? Like, why did you decide to do this?
I don't know. Well, we did it. It was previously maybe 2-3 years ago. Me, and Tom did it like an acid trip together for the first time, and since it was such a good time the first time, we thought it would be a great time just to come back to it again.
Relived like that first experience, like that first time, and then like do it again.
Pretty much, yeah. There was a big of buffer in between that time because at that time, like he didn't feel so comfortable doing it again.
Okay.
Like he was like, oh man, I don't know. He was like telling me at the tail end of his trip, it was kind of getting kind of scary. He's kind of getting worried. So he was like, I don't know if I'm down for it again, kind of deal. So everyone has done like acid on their own time, or me and Tom have done it together, like with other occasions.
Had Tony ever done it before?
He has done it once before, but the way he was describing it, he told me it was just like a mild high for him. Yeah, it was like he went over to Tom's place and they were just like chilling in the basement, looking at kaleidoscopes and like, oh, like this is it. Like
Dang.
Pretty much it was just as if they just like kind of like smoked weed a little bit. I was like, oh, this is it. And so like when we were inviting him to come out this time, he was like, guys, I don't know. Like he wasn't really that hyped or anything. He was like, oh, this is gonna be nothing. But that day, yesterday, it like blew his mind.
Yeah.
we all had a great time together. We went the plan was to go to the Morris Arboretum, and what Morris Arboretum is pretty much like a flower park, like Longwood Gardens kind of thing.
Is there admission? Do you have to pay to get in?
It is admission. Yeah.
How much? Because I've been meaning to go there.
It's beautiful, but I highly recommend going during the summertime or wait for the flowers to bloom. When we went, it was just like a lot of like dead trees and branches.
That makes sense.
But there were some like cool like structures there. But yeah, it's like $20 admission, regular admission, $10 for if you had a student ID. We started the day off with that. It was a really great time. However,
wait, did you guys drive there?
We drove there.
And then how did you leave?
We just drove back. Tom was pretty good with it.
That's dangerous.
A little bit, but I think Tom has done it enough where he has like really under control. Like
it's like scary.
Yeah, it like wears off a little bit to the point like, and the drive wasn't that bad. I think it was like 15 minutes. It was a good time. The plan was to go to Morris Arboretum and then go to Wissahickon Park. It was supposed to be like 5 minutes right after.
Right.
So it was like not much of a big drive.
For a hike?
Yeah, for a hike. So we went to Morris Arboretum. It turned out to be like a really great experience. We were loud, we were having a great time, and we were just having our minds blown all together. And it was just everything, all the visuals were there. All the flowers are coming alive. We were seeing it like all the flowers rebirth itself. Like pretty much any like tree you would see or blossom or whatever bush, we would see it dead and then like come back alive again. I'm like, whoa.
That's how Sabrina described her experience. It was as if watching like the trees come back to life.
Basically. Yeah, like regrow.
It grows a bunch of stuff.
And like the colors are ever so changing too. And like you see like small distortions of like the flowers like moving. It's like they all come alive in a way.
When was the last time that you did it?
The last time would probably been like 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay. So not that long ago, but still like a good amount of time.
It's a good amount of time. Just when like at some point you just kind of doing your daily drive kind of thing, your daily routine. You don't think about much, but it's kind of like I think now would be a good time for like a trip, just to
check in with yourself.
Yeah, check in yourself and see what's good.
Anything new? You feel like you
For this one, not really much. We didn't do much introspection things.
Okay.
Like we just did a lot of like tomfoolery and like hanging around, just making jokes. But like we did pretty much shared each other experiences of what we're doing. Like we're walking around Morse. Tom would just offer us like a grape or an almond, and we just eat it. Like holy shit, we're like having our minds blown.
He had like grapes and almonds in his pocket or something.
Yeah, he had like a pre-planned snacks. Like
Dang.
It's like Becky prepared us all these snacks, guys.
He's a
We gotta eat it.
professional.
Yeah, it's like we gotta eat this shit before we get back. I'm like, holy. So every like grape that we ate, every almond, like, whoa, dude. This one piece of grape was like this, dude. Like it just exploding of flavor and like experiences and like triggering so many things on my mind right now. This one singular grape.
Yeah, it's like on my trip with Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
I was eating charcuterie, and you know that scene in Ratatouille where he's like his eyes are closed, and then it's like, like colors appearing, and like he's like, oh, you taste that? It's like a little taste of something. It's just so funny. it's like colors exploding and like it's like an experience.
It's ever so life changing. I don't know. It's crazy the way it works. I don't know, but yeah, that like grape. It was like we ate like a finger looking grape, and the way that Tony was describing it, it was like this singular grape. Oh my god, I cannot believe there are 1,000, like more than 1,000 of these, dude. And I just had one of them, and it was mind blowing. There's so many of these, but yeah, it was just a beautiful day. Just 4 boys hanging out, doing shooting the shit kind of thing. And we're just walking around. Yeah, I kind of feel bad though because we were kind of loud.
Were there other people there?
Yeah, and most of our random. Yeah, there are people like other families. It was like a family park where people were kind of walking around, and I felt bad because we were being kind of loud. I was like, "Yo, guys, we gotta lower down the volume a bit. We're having a great time, but not everyone else is having a much of a great time that we are. Like the other families here, we gotta be really respectful. People are trying to enjoy their time here. We don't want to ruin their peace and quiet."
At one point, I think you guys called Tiffany, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And she just like hung up, and I was like, "What happened?" And she's like, "I couldn't hear anything. They're all talking at the same time."
Yeah. What happened was that we left Morris Arboretum. We were on our way to Wissahickon, and we got to Wissahickon. However, when we got to the parking lot was like full.
Yeah.
It was like no parking whatsoever. It was like cramped. People like it got to the point where like during Mount Tammany, you know how like the parking situation there, you have to like park on the fucking road.
Right, like in the middle of nothing.
In the middle of the road, yeah. We're like trying to figure out where to park.
There's 2 parking lots at Wissahickon.
Oh really?
Yeah.
We went to one and then it was gone. I'm like, oh man, we gotta find some street parking somewhere. So we just we found the parking lot. We're about to turn in, but we looked in the parking lot and we're like, it's full. Like, all right, guys, we can't go in there. It's like there's no way for us to get out if we go in. Let's just keep going straight and find the closest like street parking we could find. We kept going straight, but we kept going farther and farther, a little bit farther away than it was second. But we thought we could just get out and like walk over down, When we finally found parking, we parked, and then we got out, and then I was like trying to like navigate to the park, but like while I was looking at my phone, I was like, oh my god, I can't see anything. Like all the lines were like meshing together. And I was like, oh my! I was like staring so hard into my phone. I was like, dude, I can't read this fucking Google Maps. I'm like, what the hell are we, dude? I'm like, oh my god. So like Tom was leading the way. He just kind of started walking in a general direction just to get somewhere. And then while we were walking, I was navigating, and basically like Tom was like, "Tim, just let me know where we're going." We found a gas station. Oh, like we need water. So we went to the gas station, we got water. that was a kerfuffle because like we were at the gas station trying to get water, and like the guy was like, the gas station attendant told us the price, and like all of us were struggling to get our money out because we had so much stuff in our hands, and
Yeah.
we're like, oh my god, this is nuts. Like we're fumbling like money and everything, trying to give it to him. Like, oh man, it was a bad scene. And then we just like left, and then we were walking. We're looking for the trail to get to the inside the park, and we just ended up into this neighborhood. It was a little bit in the hood area, so we're like, huh. We asked some locals, like there were some people like chilling outside their house. And we're like, hey, do you know which way it is to the Wissahickon State Park? They're like, oh yeah. There's like, if you go down this way, make a right, there should be like a little thing like, to get to the park. I was like, cool. So we went down, we made a right. We didn't see anything. But we saw someone else down there. We're like, hey, we were told to go this way to go to Wissahickon Valley Park. Can you direct us? Like, give us directions. Like, oh yeah, you actually have to go back up that way, towards like basically back towards the first person we talked to, and then make a right down that way. Like,
wait, what?
yeah, like, huh? Like, what the fuck? And then I was like, all right. So we went back up and went, started going around, and then we started seeing the other person that we just talked to. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what happened. And then a third person came out. It was like, hey, I heard looks like you guys are lost. Like, where are you guys heading to? Like, we're just trying to find the trail to like Wissahickon Valley Park. "Yeah, okay, where'd you guys park? I was like, oh, there's something like around over there. It's like, okay, but like, where exactly did you guys park? And then he was just asking a lot of questions about where we parked and not where, not like we just want to know where to go. But he wasn't really giving that precise information. The while I was asking him, he was trying to give us directions. I think Tom sensed something wrong. He's like, yeah, we're just, never mind. We'll just find our way. Like, don't forget about it. Like, we'll just find our way. And I kind of like saw the look on Tom's face. I was like, okay, yeah, we're good. I think we're just actually parked like way like closer to the city. If anything, I just made up some bullshit. And then I walked away. At the look that I saw on Tom's face, he was like worried. He was like defensive mode, like aggro mode, and like we just felt like we weren't welcomed. And I think immediately I knew Tom was thinking like he's probably trying to find out where our car is and like steal our stuff or like break into our car or something, or maybe just call the cops on us or some shit. So we just had to get out of there real quick. It just got like,
or he would like ask you where your car was and then direct you far away from your car and then go to your car.
Possibly. That could have been another thing too. But Tom made the call. Like, he didn't feel right. Right. It's like he's like we just get out of here. I'm like, okay, I'm like, that's a safe call. So we just got back to the car and we just left and like went to Tony's, and then from there it was a good time again. It was at that point where I called Tiffany. Like, we got back to the car. I was like, oh man, this is something like, I guess that put us in like a bad like mood or trip, and we're just kind of like figuring out like, oh man, like I think maybe we should have someone sober here to help us out, But then while I was like calling Tiffany, Tom was like, no, we don't need that. Like, we don't need that, because I was freaking out a little bit because I got like put in that little panic situation. I'm like, oh man, what if they are really after us? I was like, I don't know if I can handle this right now because there's a lot going on. So that's when I called Tiffany, and then Tom was like, no, we got this, dude. I was like, we have, like, why are you calling Tiffany? We just have to be back by 8. I'm like, huh? Back by 8? Because before we left, Tom told Becky, is like, if we're not back by 8, call the cops. Because we're probably stuck on the trail and lost somewhere. Yeah. But pretty much overall, that was like only hiccup in our trip, but everything else was like a great time. But we managed to get our way back. Like, we just kind of like ditched the whole Wissahickon State Valley Park from there, the idea, and we just went back to Tony's house, just chilled. And
it's interesting how one interaction can like put you in that mindset. Like, now I'm having a bad trip.
Any like little small insecurity will like trigger a bad trip. It was happening to me a little bit when I came over to Tony's house. I saw their mom. She was like so happy to see me. She hasn't seen me in like several years. She hasn't seen me and Tom. She's like, oh my god, I haven't seen you so long. I missed you. How you been? And like, the first thing she's talking about me is like, oh, trying to get the COVID vaccine. And like, she's like, she wants to get the vaccine and she wants to go back to Vietnam. And like, just after she finished raising her grandkids, she wants to go back to Vietnam and just retire there and just live the rest of her life there. And like, she's like doing her best to stay clean, not to get sick. Obviously, because she's very old and like, she doesn't want to, of course, get sick and like, potentially have something fatal happen. Doesn't want that to happen. So she's doing her best to stay clean. While she was saying that, I felt like I was coming in. I was like, damn, dude. That just set like some guilty insecurity inside me to the point where like, damn, I'm coming out of nowhere. I'm tracking mud and shit,
Right.
like dirt and stuff into her home.
Bringing
I'm like,
germs into your home.
yeah, I'm like, I feel so dirty right now. Like, oh man, like who am I to like come in? As soon as we got into Tony's room, I was like looking for hand sanitizer. I was like, what? Like wiping cleaning my hands. And he's like, bro, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I just feel dirty. But that was like my insecurity at that time. I was like, oh man, it was like really eating me up. But I was like telling like, guys, I feel like I'm intruding. I'm coming to this house, bringing in all the outside stuff. And he was like, nah, Tin, like my mom like loves you, dude. Like she was so happy to see you. Like she was literally like tearing up when she saw you coming into the door. I was like, oh really? But in my mind, I was like, damn, I'm intruding. I'm like bringing all this track and dirt. I'm like, oh man. And she's like always constantly telling us to keep washing our hands and like, keep the place tidy and all that. It was just like really eating me up inside. I was like, ugh. But they were there to reassure me, like, Tin, like you're always welcome in this house. She loves you, dude. Like she's really happy to see you. It was great because when we were over there, we were just 4 of us hanging out outside, and she was taking care of the grandkids outside too. She was like tearing up, like, oh my god. Like I remember when I took care of you guys. You guys were so little, and then you guys are all grown up now, and now I'm taking care of these little guys. Like we're just the 4 of us acting like little kids in the driveway, like jumping on this really small trampoline, like right in front of her, and there's like little kids playing on the dirt and like playing with the soil and worms and stuff. It was like a really joyous moment for her, I think. So yeah, but like small insecurities like that came up for me too. The downsides of the acid trip, unfortunately. It was kind of nuts. It was.
How often would you take it? Are you like, oh, I want to like do a couple times a year just to like check in with myself, or is it like,
yeah, I would say,
or is it not so structured? You're like, I'll just take it when I feel like I need to.
Pretty much that. It's more so. It's not very structured. I kind of feel like I take it when I need to. If I have like a span of like 2 to 3 days off, I'm like, this is like a good opportunity to take it. Or when I'm on like a trip, like to camping trip, for example, which is like a perfect time, I think. A camping trip or a cabin trip or like any kind of trip that's away from home, and you're out in a new like environment where you're kind of on a vacation kind of thing. It's like I would say those are good opportune times to do a trip, only because you take in so much of your environment in with you on your trip. Yeah, it's kind of like it makes your experience that much like on a whole new level.
Yeah, I agree.
As for how often, I usually will take it when I feel like I need to, or I feel like it's a good time to refresh myself. And that's usually happens quite often around like 3 to 4 months. Is usually about that time. But like, so maybe like 3 times a year.
How many times have you taken it total?
About 5 or 6 times. Maybe, yeah, 5 or 6 times. I think 3 of those times were 3 or 4 of those times were with other people, like with at least one other person who's doing it with me. And like 2 of those times were just like solo trips where,
wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would feel doing it by myself.
Have you ever thought about it?
I have thought about it, but I don't know. It just seems kind of like, are you just completely by yourself, or you're with other people, but you're the only one taking it?
Completely by myself.
Interesting.
What I do, I like make my space. I make a good space around me, depending on where I am. The 2 times I've done it were at different places, but it's been at here at my house. The first time I did it, I just went outside to my backyard, set up a nice like fire pit, set up some lawn chairs, put some music on, hear the crinkling of the fire, and then I just take it. I just kind of stare into the fire or just look around me, and just take in everything that's going on around me, and just start thinking about, let things run in my mind, start thinking about what I'm doing, what everything means to me, people that I appreciate. I start texting people.
I guess now that I think about it, the majority of my last trip was like, I was like pretty much by myself because Sabrina was like in bed for like the whole day. I was basically like just doing my own thing.
AFK.
But I think it was just very nice to have her there. Like it's very grounding. Like it keeps you like, I'm like, all this stuff is happening, but at least I know that Sabrina's there. So it was very like helpful, I think.
Like an anchor.
Right.
Bring you back.
So I don't know I'd feel doing it by myself. Sounds intimidating.
It was intimidating at first, the idea of it.
Yeah.
But then like, I don't know, this is something you got to try and see how it goes,
I'm open to try.
Go on a limb and see how it goes for you. But you also have to be respectful for like, people around you.
Right.
It's kind of hard like to hide the fact that like, oh my God, he's having a conversation with me, but I'm like having my mind blown right now. Like, oh my god. But yeah, that was the first time. That's what I did for my first time. Started a bonfire. It was really nice, peaceful. I'm like, wow. I like texting my coworkers, pretty much showing them appreciation. Like, thanks for making me the nurse that I am. You guys all did well in training me.
They're
I'm
like,
so.
dang.
And then they're like texting me back, like, oh my god, Tin, this brought a tear to my eye. Like, thank you for sharing this. Like, we're great. We're so glad to have you. I'm like, it's just good things coming out of it. I'm like, oh my gosh. That's the first time. The second time, I didn't do a bonfire. I just kind of cleaned up my room, made a nice little space for myself. Then I turned on music with my soundbar with some nice bass. I just kind of let it go from there. I watched YouTube videos by myself. And then I just started texting people that came up on my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't texted Becky in a while. Let's see how she's doing. I did texted Becky, checking up on her. Like, how you doing? I texted Ashley. It's like, hey, how you doing? I hope everything's doing well for you guys. And I texted you too, and Sabrina. Everyone's like close to me that I feel like I haven't touched base with in a while. Just kind of spark a conversation, see what's going on in our lives. It's really nice to revisit like what my values are, the people that I hang out with. And just like, let me see how they're doing.
What I really want to try is tripping while being a passenger, like in the car, just like watching like shit fly by.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. What do you think? What do you think will come of that?
I don't know. I just think it would look very cool. Ooh, maybe like a train, just like tripping on a train, just watching like
true
stuff fly by. You don't have to worry about driving.
It's kind of like a moving picture.
Yeah.
But you just sit down. I feel like walking is a really good part of tripping as well. It gets your blood moving. It's like a physical experience as well as a mental experience. There were some points that during the Morse Arboretum, we would just like sit down and just like taking everything. Look at the trees and like, whoa, look at this pillar, dude. Holy shit. It's like a regular pole. There was this rock that we found at the Morse Arboretum. It's like, guys, look very close at this rock. You can see the small like striations on like the rock, and we're just staring at it. We're like literally like 2 centimeters away, just looking. I'm like, whoa, it's moving. The rock itself is moving. This color changing colors. It's just a really nice thing. Morse Arboretum, 5 out of 5. We left the place with like 5 out of 5. Thank you. What a great experience. I love this place. I think that's the extent of my 2 solo trips. Each time has been a great time. Like I was nervous how it was going into it by myself, but I think I was prepared and ready.
Right.
I already knew what to expect since I already dealt with it the first time.
Okay. If you're gonna do it for the first time, probably don't do it by yourself.
For sure. For the first time, you don't do it by yourself. Is my recommendation. And if you ever look it up on like online, people, there's a lot of research on LSD that like, and people will give their recommendations, even just as a user forum, that like you shouldn't do it by yourself because if things go wrong.
Yeah. I recommend the first time you do it to have someone who has done it before or can be your like guide through it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's how it was with Tony. I was telling Tony, like, it sounds like you didn't really have much of a trip the first time. So I was kind of walking him through this one. I was like, so when you're taking this acid, it's going to feel like there's going to be an initial like hump that you have to get over. And during this hump, what it feels like is like something is squeezing your body. Something is constricting your chest and your stomach and like just kind of like slowly closing in. It's going to be hard for you to breathe for a little bit. You might feel a little constipated. You might feel, a little nauseous. And you might feel like you need to take a shit or something, The constriction that you're going to feel, maybe like 10, 15 minutes long, it's going to be uncomfortable. But once that constriction ends, it's going to feel like your body is finally being able to like let go.
Yeah. And
you're taking in all this like energy or air at the same time at once. And that's when all the magic happens.
Yeah. Like I definitely felt like that like tension release. Mm-hmm. I had definitely had that moment, and it was so hard because I was lying down, and then it's just like complete relaxation, and like that tension, like everything you were just holding on to, just like it loosens a little bit.
Yeah.
I melted into the bed. I was like liquid, dude. I was like, uh-oh. I can't get up. I'm becoming one with the mattress.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy because that's why I like to think of it. I feel like the thing squeezes you from your oxygen. If I can just imagining in some sort of way. It's like squeezing your oxygen, like depriving you of oxygen, and then like finally letting you breathe after all that, and then like you just get all these crazy effects. Yeah, that's like the extent. And like after that hump, it's all good from there. Like you don't feel any like nauseousness or hard to breathe or any like physiological effects. More, it's all like psychedelic effects from there.
Most of the time, I feel like drugs that I've taken before have been much more like a head high. But for LSD, like I definitely feel like the body high more. Not to say like ecstasy and Molly don't have like a body high. I do feel it, but it's like almost like negligible compared to LSD, you know? I'm like, this is what I imagine when I feel body high, you know? Like this is what I want.
Exactly. It's weird. LSD is it's a crazy thing by itself, and like they are doing like research studies with it too on like how therapeutic it is for like patients, and they've having like positive results. So it's a whole different experience. But I feel like it for sure for your first time you have to deal with someone that you really trust as well.
I think I've read stuff where they use LSD to treat PTSD. Yeah. And I've seen it. I did a little bit of research on studies about anxiety. I've seen some studies use LSD to treat anxiety too.
Really?
Yeah.
It really helps like figure out where your anxiety comes from.
Right. Because I think that's what they discovered too. And just like anecdotally, like just from our experience, that definitely is true. Like it helps you define exactly what has been nagging at you. Even if you don't realize that it's been nagging at you, you're like, oh, I've been thinking about this, or like this thing has been weighing on me for so long I didn't even know.
It helps you pick apart down to the root core of the problem, you know? Like, I've been feeling this way because of this, but then like if I actually really think about it, it doesn't really matter why I think, you know? Like this thing,
like, oh, I feel this way because of this, and that's the real problem, you know?
Right, yeah. It's like if I just don't care about this or just fix this problem, then I won't have my anxiety anymore. You know, it's like it's just, I don't know. But like I think you come up with better solutions in the during that time too. Everything just makes sense in a way. Everything connects together. It's like this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. You know, it's really hard to pinpoint. You just have to experience it, rather versus me talking about it.
It makes you much more honest, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Very honest
with yourself and with like other people.
For sure. That's a good way to put it, actually. And it has to be with someone that you trust or you're really comfortable with, because if there's kind of any inkling of you being uncomfortable, it's gonna come out for sure, and it's gonna ruin your mood, unless you are able to verbalize it or just able to find some way to express it to the person that you're with, so that they can remedy that anxiety or that feeling for you. You know, someone's got to be there as your anchor to ground you, to bring you back if you were to go into a bad trip.
Right.
Remember, and like, for example, that's the tricky part about tripping, because you can be having a great time for like the first 3-4 hours.
And then like in a split second, it just all goes dark.
Yeah, in a split second, exactly. It just goes right downhill without you even expecting it.
Yeah.
You know?
What's also very interesting is like the visuals play such a huge part in it. When I mean it goes dark, I mean literally, like when you have like a moment of anxiety, the world like closes in and gets like very narrow. It's very scary.
For sure. That's happened to me my first time. I was like chilling. I was having a good time. And then I heard like a song came on, and it reminded me of some really dark feeling. I don't know what it was exactly, but I didn't really get a good feeling from listening to the song. And it was showing like my vision. It was all like light grandeur, very bright. I'm like, wow. The song came on. I don't really like this song, but I don't want to tell them that I don't like it. You know, that was going through my head. I don't want to tell them. Yeah, exactly.
Like the edges start to like close in a little, gets darker.
Exactly. Yeah. I like in my mind. I don't really like this song, but I don't want to ruin it for them, because I'm pretty sure they're enjoying this song right now. But then that was ruining me. Like me thinking that the corner of my vision started to like get dark, and it started slowly spreading through the rest of my vision. It was like my light of grandeur just turned dark like real quick. It was spreading from my right top corner to my left top, and then coming down. I'm like, oh my god, guys, can we change the song or something? I can't. It's getting scary for me right now. I can't. They're like, yeah, of course. So we changed the song, and it just like fixed it immediately. I'm like, whoa. And from there, I think it reminded me of some things in my head that I've been keeping in the back of my mind, and I just had to tell them like what was going on in my head. And from there, it was just I was out of the bad trip, and like I was like back into to having a good time. I like was able to verbalize a lot of my issues that I've been dealing with internally, and I was able to make sense of everything that was going on with me. And from there, it was just like after the whole trip, I felt like a whole new person. A lot of weight was off of my shoulders. It felt like I was having a actual fresher breath air mentally, you know.
Compared to the other drugs that I've taken in the past, the way I say that makes it sound like I've taken a ton of drugs, but that's not really the case. Compared to say other psychedelics, like or drugs with other like psychotropic stuff, you know, weed, like Molly and ecstasy. Compared to those, I feel like LSD is by far the most of an experience for me. Like the others, I felt like I was still on planet Earth. It was just like an altered perception, you know, like, oh, I'm just changing like the way I view the world. I feel like LSD put me in like a different dimension.
Oh, for sure, dude. Oh my god.
I feel like I'm like on a different plane sometimes.
It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
But like you definitely know you're in it when you're in it. All the experiences are so much different when you're on that trip. On the acid.
And then I feel like it's like all the things that I like about the other drugs I take, but without the downsides.
For real. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like there's no crash, you know?
Yeah.
There's like no, I don't know how to put it. It doesn't put you in like a bad, it doesn't use up like your, I don't know. I'm not too much on like.
Right, on the science of it.
On the science of it. But it doesn't have like an effect to you after it's finished where you're just kind of like, I don't
know. Right, for people who don't know, when you take like say MDMA, there is a come down, and it's very like sometimes you can just crash, you know, and there's like, and I'm just like super sad immediately after, like, but I don't get that with LSD.
Yeah, it does. If anything, it just enhances your mind for a moment.
And let's say like for example weed, when I'm like coming down from the high, I have a headache. Almost 9 times out of 10 I have a headache.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. But I don't have that with LSD.
That's very peculiar because I don't have that headache.
But that's what I'm saying. Like LSD has all the benefits that I want with none of the like,
side effects,
negatives of the others.
Because you face the side effect in the beginning, that initial hump that I was talking about, and then from there, that's it. You just gotta deal with the side effects for like 15 minutes.
And sometimes the humps,
it's very manageable.
Yeah. Like I mean, if you see it coming, you're like, okay, here it is. Let me just get past it. You're like, right. Yeah. I'm in it.
Exactly. And then you're in it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It's just a good road from there.
That is, the way you described it definitely like is how I feel. It's like if you're jump into water and then you're like, for example, you cannonball, you're in that water, and then when you're like going back up and then you get air, that's what it feels like.
Yes. Yeah. That was crazy. That's how I felt. And when I told that to Tony, he's like, I feel that constriction that you're talking about right now, it's happening. Yep, my body feels kind of tight right now. Oh, this kind of feels weird. Oh, it's a little uncomfortable right now. And then after it went away, he went from 0 to 100 real quick. It's like, whoa. It was hilarious. We were walking around. It's like, this is not my typical Saturday morning. Like, I would usually get out of bed and go on Valorant streams and then watch it on Saturday mornings. But I would never expect to do it like this happening. But yeah, environment is a very key thing for LSD.
Right.
For sure. And if you're doing it around people that you're like uncomfortable with, or if someone's gonna come home and it's gonna set you off and like, oh shit, I don't want them to find out.
Yeah,
it's
like
gonna
get in trouble or something.
Yeah, you're gonna be blasting on all cylinders and like trying to figure out like, oh my god, anxiety producing. But yeah, I think the best place to do it for sure is outside.
Yeah, like woodsy areas.
Very woodsy areas. Like it's definitely for something that you do in nature. It's definitely doable at home too. But doing it in nature, out in the open, really like puts the experience to the top.
I think now that I'm in a better like headspace and a better like anxiety like management level, I definitely want to try it again at a music festival. Because the first time I did it at a music festival, it wasn't like my favorite experience. But now like I was in a different space. I was like I feel like I was a different person at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But now I think I want to try it again.
You're like in a better mindset now.
Right.
Like I'm ready.
Plus,
now.
I'm like more experienced. I know what to expect, and I know what like how to maximize my experience or make the most of it.
I was very scared. I think my second time I was taking it, it was at a festival. I was very like worried how I was gonna react to it because after the first time,
I think that's what put me off. It was like the whole time I was just like a little nervous of like how I was gonna react or how like, you know. was my first time, so I was like nervous the whole time, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't fully enjoy it because like that was like just looming in the back of my mind, like, oh, like how am I gonna react? Like what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, okay, I know how it feels, what's gonna happen. Like I can really like embrace it.
Mm-hmm. At the festival, it's actually really nice because you can. I think you were there. You saw it too, but like the music just hits you differently. It like really hits you differently. Like auditory stimulation, it like goes off in your head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow.
I remember feeling like, so it was a very hot day, and I remember being like very sweaty,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember feeling like every single drop of sweat on my body when the bass was hitting. I could feel like the sweat droplets all over my body like rippling. I was like, this is crazy.
Microscopic feeling.
Yeah.
Wow. And I remember one time you were talking about how, like, Tin, look, if you look up there, like I see like waves of color like moving. I was like, what? I looked down, I was like, oh shit, I see it too. I was like, oh damn, we're seeing the same thing right now. Like basically it was like a wave of rainbow colors in the air. Like it's like the air was breathing.
Yeah.
You know, right? That was the first time I seen that. I was like, interesting. It was what really put me off after the first time was like the first time was so intense for me.
Because you did that at home, right?
We did it indoors, yes. We were just in like a very small room, just the three of us, and it was so strong to the point that, like I was seeing writings on the wall.
Dang.
I was thinking to myself, is this how painters paint now? Like they get free stenciling on the walls, free stencils on the walls. They just trace it. I was like, I understand how painters paint now. Like I know how they get the creativity. Holy shit. And it was like magical colors on the wall. I think at one point I saw like a whole elephant, but like it was like hieroglyphic print elephant. I was like, whoa. All the paintings that he had in his room was coming alive. It was a really intense trip. Every trip after that has not been like as that strong before. Right. And I was like wondering why. I was like, I don't understand. I chalked it up to being like just a first time thing. Like nothing is going to ever be as good as the first time when you take something, you know? Then I just recently found out that it was most likely a double dose that I took the first time. I was like, what? This whole fucking time it was a double dose for my first time? Dude, I was like, no fucking wonder. That explains every subsequent one.
How did you figure that out?
I just talked to Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, bro, every time I did it, it hasn't been as strong as that one time we did it. Like, yeah, I think that time was a double dose because he told me too. It's like he wasn't experiencing the same things either, and I was like, oh my god. But yeah, now I know where my tolerance is at.
I know at one point in one episode you told me like if you're gonna take it like back to back, like you would have to take 3 times as much the next day, right?
Yeah, or 4 times. That's 400%.
Okay, so 4 times as much.
The very next because once you take it once, your body builds a huge tolerance, immediate tolerance. Like so, you try to take it the next day of the same dosage, you won't feel anything at all. If anything, you'll feel like a little slight smidget of feeling or something, and it won't last that long.
What's the time that they recommend? Like how long in between dosing?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not that long. It's a lot shorter than I thought.
It's 2 weeks. Yeah. That's the recommended time for it to be like you fully replenish whatever, I know. But it does taper off. Like for the next day, you have to take 400%. There's a whole chart online I found. Right. You have to take 400% the very next day. As the days go by, like that percentage decreases, like 375, 350, 325, 300%.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, like days go by or progresses, your tolerance level will decrease, and then you're able to.
I imagine it's because it's still like in your system, and as your body like
tapers off,
or like metabolizes it, you need less and less.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's what I feel like it does. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that's what in my mind that's how it works. If you're really trying to take it in 2 days in a row, you gotta pack like 5
tabs.
5 tabs, bro. It's fucking nuts. What a wonderful thing.
Would you recommend it as someone's first drug? Like if they never taken any drugs before, would you say like, oh, you want to try acid?
I would recommend it for sure. Only if they're ready though. I would give them all the precautions beforehand. Like I would recommend it, but only in these conditions. Like I would give them a condition list. Like you gotta give
them a questionnaire.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like if you answer no to any of these questions, do not take it.
I agree. I think it's definitely, if anything, I feel like don't do any other drugs. Just do this one. That's my opinion. Like, honestly, weed's okay. Molly's like good. But LSD, this is the first drug that I've ever tried that I'm like actually like actively trying to convince people like to try it.
Right.
But definitely like you have to be in the right mindset.
Right mindset, right environment with the right people.
Right, 100%.
The 3 rights. And then your trip will be very good.
Yeah, definitely have to
No.
do like a social questionnaire. Like, have you had feelings of depression in the last 3 to 4 months? Like, okay, write that down. Have you?
For real.
Do you consider yourself a anxious person? Yes, sometimes, no.
My hope is that like sometime in the future, like we can get just enough people who, you know, as a group trip together. Because it'd be very nice if I'm able to trip with like a lot of my close friends and family.
How many is like a group?
I don't know. So far, I've done is a maximum of 4, 4 of us, which is the most recent. And that was a great time. I had a whole blast. Minus the hiccups, it would have been great. But overall, the whole day was 5 out of 5. Me and my boys, you know, me and the boys that we used to hang out all the time when we were younger. Not much like, you know, like we known her for over like 11 years.
I think you and I should do it.
For sure, dude. I'm down. We did it once before, just us two.
Yeah.
And
at
then
that one cabin.
Yeah, that was great too. That was actually like a really great time to do it because best of both worlds. Inside, loud music, nice, jolly, Christmas time feeling, warm, cozy. Outside, cold, quiet, calm, collected. Sit by the fire. Oh my god, that was probably the perfect like situation.
Environment, yeah, perfect environment
for sure.
That had the right people and the right environment.
Yeah, and what's great is that even though we were around the people that we were like, you know, friends with, it didn't affect us to the point that because we were the only 2 people that were tripping versus everyone else that were just kind of there hanging out with us, and they weren't like judging us for that or anything, you know. It was actually a very good experience.
They're very supportive.
Yeah, very supportive. Like, oh yeah, tell us how you're feeling. You know,
I would like do something weird, and they're just like they wouldn't like call me out. They would just like observe from a distance and then tell me later. You know,
right?
Because I feel like I was staring at this painting, just like smiling, just like wow, this is a beautiful painting. You know, sitting there, and I feel like if anyone had like called me out at that point, I feel like I would have like been really self-conscious. But they just like saw me, and they're like, that's cute, and then like. Later, they told me about it, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys were even watching." But
and like that's the best environment you can ask for, you know. If someone was like, "Yo, bro, look at you look fucking crazy,"
you're like, you look.
You be like,
yeah, exactly.
I'd be so like fucked up. I'm in my mind, like, "Yo, man, like, nah, fucking thinking weird shit now."
Now I feel weird.
But luckily, in that environment, everyone thought we're just doing our thing, dude. Like, and no one like judged us for it. Probably the best situation ever. Just so you can hang out with people that you know, even people who aren't on it, and you get to be on it too, and like share your experience with everyone. In a way, I'm not like trying to convince them to do it, but like kind of shows it to them that like, you know, what you're doing is not like bad or unsafe, or you're not like dying in front of them or anything of sickness or some shit. It's just like a nice, safe, recreational fun with the people that you're close to. I don't know what more you can ask for from there. Wow, we just spent a whole episode on that.
Okay, so at the end of every episode, we do a segment called What's Up With You, where we just update on latest and greatest, you know, just whatever we've been into, whatever we've been checking out. What's up with you, Tin?
What's up with me? Bro, there's so much going on with me right now. All right, so I guess what's up with me right now is I'm in the middle of house hunting.
Yeah.
I already talked about this before, but this shit is crazy, dude. Like
what's different recently?
Recently we've been putting like there was this one house that we've been looking at and we were really excited to get.
Are you guys like shifting into overdrive? Like you're like what have you been doing differently than before? Or are you guys trying harder?
We're trying harder. Well, not really much different, but I just kind of picked up more like tips from like coworkers on what to do to make your offer or your bid like better, more appealing for the sellers to take. In the end, it still like comes down to whether or not you have more money versus like a more personalized thing. So the one thing that I went to work one day, my coworkers, the other nurses are like you can share like a lot of life updates, and they keep asking me like, oh, how's the house, and how's the house hunting going, and are you looking for a house and everything. Yeah, I just gotta update them. I tell them that we've been looking at houses, that we put down offers down. We lost like so many bids. My one coworker was like suggesting, hey, yeah, you should probably do this. Like write a personalized letter. I was watching this Property Matters show, She's like, you should write a letter with your offer just to give, tell them about yourself, give your offer a personalized,
It's a cover letter.
a cover letter.
Cover letter for
Exactly.
your house resume.
Apparently it like really helps, and I was like talking to my other coworkers about it. It's like, hey, my other coworker just bought a house too, but like in the more like
You're like, did you write a cover letter?
exactly.
And
Did
they're
you
like,
write a
yeah.
cover letter when you bought this house? Like, I was like, oh yes, definitely. 9 times out of 10,
Dang.
write a cover letter for sure. I was like, I have been doing this the whole time. And then I asked my supervisor at the time. He's like, did you write a cover letter for housing or for putting an offer down? I was like, oh yeah, my daughter was trying for so long. When she finally wrote her cover letter, she instantly got that house.
Dang.
I'm like, what the fuck? And I talked to another coworker where her daughter has been searching for houses for like over a year, and she was like giving up because she was looking at like 5 houses a day. She was putting offers down, but she was losing every single one. Until one day she went to a house to go check it out. The owner happened to be there, and when she went there, she like ran into the owner, and the owner saw her, and they were both like freaking out a little bit, like, what the fuck are you doing in this house? And then like she's like, what the fuck are you in this house? I'm here to visit it. It was supposed to be empty. Like, I'm the owner. But they ended up having like a whole hour conversation together. From there, they had like a great conversation. She put her bid in, and then she finally won that house. The coworker I was talking to was like, I think she won that house because the seller really got to know her.
Right, exactly.
Got to know her situation, what her family, why she's buying the house, and really decided, chose her over any other offer.
Because it becomes more personal when you see that name. You're like, oh, I had a real conversation with them,
Yeah, and this is like, a person who's trying to find a home for their family to start in, to grow up in. And this is a great opportune time for her. And she's such a great person that I got to talk to her. So yeah, she finally ended up in that house. I was like, yo, I started writing letters, dude. I was writing cover letters for my bids. But this one house that me and Tiffany were looking at, we were very excited to grab it. It was a really great space. It was a fixer upper. But we saw a lot of potential on what we can do with the house. When we finally put the offer down, I also wrote a cover letter as well on top of that. And I had a couple of my coworkers review or proofread my letter, and they were like, this is a nice one. This is very good. So I had really high hopes for that offer/bid, but in the end, someone else won the bid because they had even a higher offer,
right,
and money. Either way, it was a good learning experience from there. Now I know what to do to make my offer a little more appealing than other offers.
Dang, that's the sort of thing you have to ask people about. They probably don't mention it online that much, right? Like writing a letter with your offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta look up what makes your offer more appealing. But of course, more money is always gonna be the big.
Yeah, number one.
For sure. But there's also some houses that are wheelchair accessible. So they would kind of cater more towards someone who's more handicapped, so they can get around more easily. There has been situations like that, or deals that has come down to that. That's what's up with me. What's up with me? What's up with you, Alan?
Not much. On the days that I'm not hanging out with Sabrina, I will spend most of my days watching anime. Because there's a lot of stuff I've been lagging behind in. I've been watching Jujutsu Kaisen. I finished up Fire Force, and then I've watched 2 seasons of Mob Psycho.
Oh.
Have you heard of that before, Mob Psycho?
Mm-mm.
Basically, it's about in that world, psychics are not normal, but it's just there are psychics in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about this one kid his nickname is Mob, and he's probably the most powerful psychic, but he doesn't like to rely on his powers. He just wants to be because he says without his powers, he would just be a normal, boring, middle school kid.
Right.
So he wants to be able to say that even without his powers, he's still an interesting, someone who can be looked up to, or someone he can be interesting and fun to be around and stuff like that.
He can actually be able to do something without his powers.
Right.
That's a good way to look at it. Because if you depend too much on your powers, your identity, I feel like your identity revolves around your powers. And if you take that away, you just kind of have a mental breakdown on who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm nothing without my powers. Oh, no. Mob Psycho. Nice.
What I really like about it is so there's a term in anime called sakuga. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So essentially it's the term to describe very, very good and smooth animation, or very stylistic animation. You know, it's sometimes in anime, they only animate the mouth moving, and it's just a static image of their face.
Yeah.
Or it's 2 frames, but they do it back and forth. So it looks like they're just moving,
kind of moving a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But sakuga is when it's super detailed animation, and it's let's say for example, a really good anime fight scene, it's real,
yeah,
detailed, real.
I think
Jujutsu
Kaisen has that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
in the fight scenes.
Jujutsu Kaisen has like some very, very good fight scenes where it's like the transitions are like,
You can see movements.
Yeah.
Like every punch you see, like you'll see like every minute detail of it.
Mhm.
I've noticed that. I was like, yo, this Jujutsu Kaisen like action scenes are like on point. Like for some reason, I can see every movement, every like.
yeah, it's hard to define, but when you see it, you know, like, oh, that's Sakuga.
Right. It's like someone turned up the FPS counter.
Yeah,
like, You know,
exactly.
it's like before you used to like 24 hertz or something.
Yeah,
24 frames per second, but now you're looking at like 60 to 144. I'm like, oh, I can see every little thing now. Or like when sometimes like what like main characters in like an anime, like a shonen anime, they just start like disappearing, choo 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 choo. But instead, with what's that term called again?
Sakuga.
With Sakuga, you can actually see them
Right.
moving in that in that space versus teleporting everywhere.
I think it's because they make episodes like weekly, so the turnaround is very fast, so you have to cut corners where you can.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll animate like most of the episode like low, like not low quality, but like minimal effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the scenes that you really want to highlight, you're like, okay, we're gonna put all of our time into animating this one fight scene. That's Sakuga. That one like scene.
That's it. And you can definitely tell when the scene turns a little
Yeah.
different because the animation is like different than the regular episodes. Like the way they're drawn out for sure. You can definitely tell in like Naruto, for example, like, with the Sakuga scenes or fight scenes, they're like animated way differently.
Yeah.
And like that's a good fight. A good fight's about to happen. The
They're
way
just
it's
like-
drawn.
One frame at a time, and then the fight scene comes and they're like smooth and like
Yeah,
you
like
can
the-
see like the hand motions and stuff.
For
Like,
sure.
what?
It was like when Naruto fought Sasuke at the valley of
Right.
that happened. Oh my gosh, there's just so many deep things.
Yeah. So Mob Psycho is a good example of a series that does that very well.
I gotta see that
Like
now.
their
Mob
fights,
Psycho.
there's certain scenes that you can tell like goes from normal anime to like 1,000, 0 to 1,000. Like, whoa, this is where all their time went.
That's how you know that's a good anime, for them to put all that detail in there. Ugh, I need to get back into the anime. Like, I'm still rewatching Naruto right now. Like I'm still in the middle of it, to the point where Naruto beats Pain. That's how far I
Dang.
got. Yeah, he just beat Pain, so I need to watch the rest of it. And I have to finish Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm like 3 or 4 episodes away from finishing. But yeah, thank you for sharing, Alan.
So yeah, that wraps up for this episode of Oka Cast, episode 24.
24.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you believe it? 24.
24 episodes. Big strides. 2 dozens.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.